All right. Good evening, everyone. We're going to get started now, and thank you all for joining us this evening for our our Cub Scout resident camp orientation for leaders and parents. We're really excited to have you all here with us tonight. My name is Brian Murray. I'm the camp director here at RSR. We're also joined by Quinn Ciccolella, our program director. Excited to see you all here, including looks like some scouts as well. So welcome to you all. Happy to see you. And we're really excited for our program that we've got for you next week. So let's begin. We've got you muted, but if you have questions during the presentation this evening, please don't hesitate to, you can unmute to ask a question or throw a question into the chat box, and Quinn and I'll try to keep up on those as we go through, and we'll definitely have time at the end for any questions that you might have. So I wanted to start with our check-in procedures, and actually that should be rewritten as not just Sunday, but also Wednesday. So tonight we have folks that are attending either session of Cub Scout resident camp. So some of you are coming Sunday afternoon to Wednesday morning. Some are coming Wednesday afternoon to Saturday morning. So when it says Sunday here, that actually should say Sunday or Wednesday, depending upon what day you're coming in. And as we talk about the program, we'll talk about it in the context of day one, day two, day three, rather than trying to do the days. But when you go arrive, we ask that folks get here around 1 o'clock, or that's when we will begin check-in is 1 o'clock. So you can come after that. And folks can begin gathering. We do have some large packs that are attending the next two sessions there. So we know that some of you may want to start getting people together around 12:30, taking attendance, making sure everyone's together. So 12:30 is a good time to start that. Please don't arrive earlier than that because we really just aren't going to be set up to take you in at that time. 1 o'clock's plenty of time to get rolling. Um, Everyone is going to check in at the Cub Scout Pavilion. The Cub Scout Pavilion is right across from the parking lot. So when you pull into camp, park in the parking lot, you'll see us there at the pavilion right there on the edge as you come in. You can't miss us. You're going to check in with me first, and we'll just very quick and easy check in. You're going to indicate that you're here. We'll check you off, and we will give you your campsite assignments at that time. And then you will go for the medical recheck, right? That's the check of the health forms that are going to happen at that time. And as part of that, we'll talk about this a little bit more in depth in a moment here. That's also when medications for the scouts would be turned in. That's also where you'll pick up your t-shirt. The scouts all get a t-shirt. Some adults pre-ordered t-shirts for themselves, so those will be picked up at that time. And then from that point, we will have staff guides that will escort families and the campers to their campsites. So with that, Cub Scout camp is a little bit different than the way we have check-in going for Scout camp for the Scouts BSA older scouts, because usually they're all arriving in a large troop, and so they kind of put all the troop gear together and take it in. I know some of you are set up that way, and so larger packs are going to be able to take a vehicle down into camp. But we also have a lot of folks that are coming as ones and twos, and small groups like that. And the roads in camp are in many places they're one-way passage, and so we really try to reduce the number of vehicles on the road. So packs will be able to get a vehicle pass to take one vehicle down to the site to drop gear off. For some of you that may be arriving in the smaller ones and twos kinds of situation, we'll work with you to try to either get a vehicle down, or we will transport, or you can use the wheelbarrows or other things, but you may not be able to get vehicles down to the campsite. Now, most of the campsites are not that far from the parking lot, and it's all downhill from there, but please keep that in mind with the gear coming into camp. I wanted to talk a little bit about the requirements for adults that are in camp, right? So this is a program that is built around either parent or pack adult participation. It's not a provisional program where staff provides overnight supervision for the scouts. So all of the scouts that are in attendance do need to have either a parent or pack leadership going with them, following scouting's policies for that. That means if you're attending as a pack here, you need to have a minimum of 2 registered adult leaders. That means they're registered with Scouting America. They're at least 21 years of age or older. And if you have any girls in the pack, any girls in your group, then one of those adult leaders needs to be female, right? Those are Scouting America regulations. So those are things that need to be in place. All adults that are coming to camp also must be submitted through a New York State background check. Now, when you registered to come to camp, and you registered in Black Pug, that's our online registration system for summer camp, all of the adults that registered, we collected the information that we need to do the background check. In fact, if you've been registered for a little bit here, you've already been cleared. You've already gone through the background check. Um, in some cases, and I've already heard from a couple of folks, you may have a parent who's maybe going to switch on and off with another parent. So maybe one parent's coming in for Sunday to Monday, and another parent's they're going to leave, and the other one's going to come in for Tuesday, Wednesday. That's okay. That's not a problem, but they need to meet the same requirements. It doesn't mean that you need to register that parent separately in Black Pug because that's going to charge you for an extra adult when really they're just sharing one adult position for the week. But we do need that adult's name and date of birth to be able to do the background check for New York State. So there's two ways that you could do that. You can either email me, and my email is going to be in the presentation here shortly, and send that information to me. Say, hey, we registered my husband and he's going to be there Sunday and Monday, but I'm going to come in and take over Tuesday and Wednesday. Here's my name. Here's my email address, or sorry, here's my name. Here's my date of birth. Or we have a Google form that's on our camp website that talks about the background check. It's labeled as for Scouts BSA camp because that's where we get a lot more of this sort of transitional adults coming through. But you can use that form as well, and we will use that to collect the data for the background check. You will not see your pack number listed, but you can just list it as camp volunteer, and we'll get the important information, which is the name and the date of birth. So that is required for everyone. The other requirement for adults is all adults need to have scouting's either youth protection training or safeguarding youth training. And the reason I mention both of those is you may or may not have heard that back in, I think it was May, April or May, Scouting unveiled a whole new training for youth protection. So if you got trained prior to that, you got trained in Scouting youth protection training. And that was a 2-year certification, and you got a card certificate for that. We have a whole new program. It's a new online training. It's better, right? It covers more things, and is a really good training program coming out from National. If your card had expired or you're doing it new for the first time since the changeover occurred, you're now taking the Safeguarding Youth course. Two different names, both meet the same requirement. So all adults need to have either youth protection or safeguarding youth. As long as your youth protection card is still valid, the date has not expired on it, you're good to go. You don't need to take the safeguarding youth training course for this year. You will need it for next summer because all youth protection cards will expire at the end of May next year, regardless of when your training 2-year certificate is up. They're going to cut them all off at the end of May, and everybody from that point forward will need to do safeguarding youth. So in terms of the adults, let me go back to that. For the pack, you need to have a minimum of the 2 registered adult leaders. At least one is female if there are any girls in the group. New York State background checks for everyone, and then either youth protection or safeguarding youth for all adults that are in camp. Okay, and so if you are a company, packs can have additional adults that are with them. This does apply to Cub Scouts and not to Scouts BSA, but in Cub Scouts, additional adults that may be attending camp with their child. If they are not registered, that is acceptable as long as the pack is meeting the overall registration requirement. But the scouting rule is that if you are unregistered in scouting, you can be with your child, but you cannot be unsupervised with anybody else's child, right? So that's the Scouting America guideline regarding that. Cub Scouts are a little bit different than Scouts BSA and venturing when it comes to that. Okay, wanted to talk a little bit about our health and safety protocols in camp, and that picture right there, we wanted to show you, that's our health officer, Josh Clark. He's does a great job for us keeping everybody healthy and safe, and so we wanted to make sure that you got a picture of his face so you knew who to turn to for help next week if needed. The first wanted to talk about the health and medical record, right? That's the scouting health form. The full scout health form, including Part C, which is the doctor's signature part from the physical, is required for all scouts. Okay, so all scouts are required to have the complete 4-page health and medical record, which on Part C requires a proof of physical with a doctor's signature on there. For adults, because this event is less than 72 hours, the Part C is strongly recommended, but it is not going to be required. However, there are some limitations on you if you don't have the Part C. You cannot get a buddy tag if you do not have the Part C, which means you will not be able to partake in any aquatic activities. You cannot go onto the waterfront to go swimming or boating or anything like that if you do not have the Part C. So that's for adults. So there's a slightly different for scouts versus adults on that one. For our emergency procedures in camp, we have two sirens that we use. One we would use if we need to get everybody to take attendance, kind of like in school where you have fire drills where we want to get everybody taking attendance and know where everyone is. If that siren goes off, we ask everybody to gather at the Grizz Pavilion, which is right outside the dining hall. So everybody lines up in the row there. You line up by pack, and we ask that everybody in the pack remains standing if you're waiting on anybody. And as soon as everybody is present, that includes all the scouts as well as all the adults, then everybody in the pack sits down, or the scouts at least sit down or squat down, so that we can look across and we can see if the pack is still standing, we know that they're still waiting on people. If the scouts are sitting, we know that that pack is all set and everybody is fully in attendance. We would use that for a lost camper, lost bather, situations like that. You will also hear that siren go off daily for a brief test of about a second long at 7 o'clock each morning, and that's just a test of the system to make sure it's still functioning well every day. We have a second siren that we use for severe weather situations. We call that the Yelp, and it sounds a lot more like an emergency vehicle, like an ambulance or a police car siren. If you hear that, then that means we've got a storm headed our way and we want everybody to get to shelter. So if you hear that siren, we ask everybody to go to either the dining hall or to Seneca Lodge, which is the big building down at the waterfront, and to go to whichever of those two buildings is closer to where you are when you hear the when you hear the siren, right? Because that's going to make sure that everybody is safe and where they need to be. We will have staff in both locations that will take attendance and work with the leaders of the packs to make sure that we've got everybody accounted for in one or the other of those two spots. We do have 3 AEDs, the automatic defibrillators, that are located on the property should that become necessary at any time during camp. We keep one up here in the office of the camp. One travels with Josh, the health officer, and the third one is kept down at the waterfront in the lifeguard station, which is called the Ice House. So we have 3 of them available throughout the camp should that ever become needed. Continuing with our health and safety theme here, we have a system of wristbands in place to identify who should be in the property and not. So all adults that are registered to be part of the program with us will receive a silicone wristband similar to one of the ones that I'm wearing here. And guests, if we have any guests, somebody shows up for a quick visit or needs to drop off some supplies or something like that to see a scout, they will be issued one of those Tyvek wristbands like you get at the carnival, that indicates that they have checked in at the office. And that's because all guests need to check in at the office when they arrive in camp. We do have a camper release form that is, on occasion we have scouts. It doesn't happen as often with the Cub Scouts, but on occasion we might have a scout that needs to leave at some point before the end of the program. Maybe you've got a little league game or something like that going on and they need to leave for a couple hours. We have that camper release form. There's a copy of it available on our website on the resources page, or you can pick one up in the office that needs to be signed by the parent as well as signed by the unit leader who's back in the campsite so that both know that that scout is leaving camp at that time. I talked about vehicles in camp. We do ask that folks refrain from driving through camp. Also keep in mind that the speed limit is 10 miles per hour. As soon as you go from the paved road to the dirt road, exiting Davitt Lake Road and going into the camp road there, the speed limit turns to 10 miles per hour, and we ask that you keep it slow throughout the camp and to keep vehicles out of campsites and off grassy areas. I talked about the fact that many of our roads are single passage, which means if we got 2 cars coming opposite one another, one of them is going to have to give and they're going to have to drive off into a field, which is why we try to keep the vehicle traffic down to minimize those occasions, because when we get rain, the fields become muddy and the vehicles turn up big ruts and make a mess of things. And from a safety perspective, we always ask to make sure that we don't have any riders in the backs of pickup trucks or on trailers or anything like that. Only riders, passengers in seats with seatbelts as they're traveling through camp. For communication, we use a few different methods, one of which is the Remind Alert system, which is an app that you may be familiar with. Maybe you use it through school or other youth activities. And we will set up a, or have set up a communication code for each session. So if you're coming on Sunday, your session one, you're going to want to text at one RSR Cub 25 to the number 81010. Or if you already have the Remind app, just go in and add a class, and that's the join code at one RSR Cub 25. If you're joining us on Wednesday, your session two, you use the second code, 2 RSR Cub 25. So you sign up for whichever one you're going to be with us, and that way, while you're at camp, we can push out notices as we need to during the week to let you know about things that are happening, reminders about program, that sort of thing. It's a nice way to communicate out with the leaders that are in camp. We also have a camp newspaper that is published every day by our assistant ranger and camp historian, Ed Keelan. He does a great job. There's funny stuff in there for the kids. There's all sorts of good things and program information and schedules. And he also publishes that newspaper. He posts them up in a Google Drive, which is accessible from his Facebook page. Ed runs his Facebook page not as a personal Facebook page, but as the history of Rotary Scout Reservation and the home of our Thunderbird Club supporters. So if you look up Ed Keelan on Facebook and it says History of Rotary Scout Reservation or something to that effect, you'll be able to um, find the Google Drive posted earlier this summer and look in there for daily publishing of the newspapers if you're watching from home. Wanted to share with you a couple of email addresses that you may need to communicate with us. My email address is campdirector@rsrbsa.org. Quinn's follows the same protocol. His is program director at rsrbsa.org, all one word. Our cook, who I'll talk about in a second, is reachable at food@rsrbsa.org. And Josh, our medical officer, is medical@rsrbsa.org. And as you may have guessed, our website is rsrbsa.org, and it's a great place to find our Cub Scout parent and leader planning guide with all sorts of information. Everything we're covering tonight, plus lots more, is all available from the resources tab, and really actually from our front page, right on the main page, go right below the top picture. You'll see a link to the Cub Scout Resident Camp Planning Guide. Good resource for getting ready for next week. All right, so for our dining services, we serve a buffet style service. If you've been with us the last few years, you may have met our cook, Sean. He's back with us again this year. He does a fantastic job for us, keeping us well fed and healthy throughout the summer. Our meals are served at 8 o'clock, 12:30, and 6 o'clock p.m. And that's for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And Sean does a really nice job of taking care of individuals' different allergies, dietary restrictions, things like that that we need to do. The best thing we can do for Sean is to give him plenty of notice of any of those things to make sure he has the knowledge that he needs as well as the supplies that he needs to be able to accommodate those particular restrictions. So there's a QR code on the screen right there. You can go ahead and snap a picture of that there, and that'll take you to the Google form where you can report those food allergies and dietary restrictions directly to Sean. If he needs to, he will reach out to you, contact you for additional information. That QR code is also available on our website. The link is available on our website. And the QR code is in the planning guide that I referenced a moment ago, which is also available on our website. Our campsites. Wanted to show you a picture of our tents and setup, so you have a little bit of an idea of what you're going to be camping in next week. There are a couple of the campsites that we will be using next week do have lean-tos in them, so that could be a possibility that you could use a four-person lean-to. We have new bunks this year with mattresses, so you may choose to use that. But most of the campsites and most of the tents in those campsites or sleeping accommodations in those campsites are tents, just like you see on the screen there. Those are 9 feet wide, 7 feet long, canvas wall tents. That center pole there is about 6 feet tall in the center, and you've got two cots in there to accommodate two people. So the campsites are spacious. The tent has got a good amount of room, especially for Cub Scouts. And it's the same tents that the bigger scouts stay in the rest of the summer, so they get a really great adventure there, staying in those tents. Every campsite also has a large pavilion in it, a 20-foot by 20-foot camp pavilion with picnic tables under it. We have a latrine and running water in each campsite. There's also a shower house, one central shower house near the dining hall. So the shower house has 12 individual stalls youth, so we don't have to worry about youth, adults, male, female, any of those kinds of things. It's individual stalls, so you open up the stall, go in, shower, close it behind you, and you've got the privacy that you need. And that is, as I say, near the dining hall. All right. So those are some of the facilities and logistical things to talk about. So I want to turn it over to, I see some excited faces. I'm loving this. I want to turn it over to Quinn to talk about our programs.
Thank you, Brian. I'm definitely one of the excited faces in that group. So, hi, everybody. My name is Quinn. I'm the program director. I'm really excited to be part of this year for our program. So, what's going to happen is on each day after arrival, so our first day that you come in, Brian kind of talked about the transition, but the next day we have a 3 1 hour session in the morning and afternoon with an evening activity. There will be a total of 6 dens for the first half, and then there'll be 5 dens in the second half. And we will be going in basically a 1 hour session in each, kind of like a round robin. And so you'll be able to participate in different activities, from doing really cool bouldering stuff to BB and archery, waterfront, nature. There's some camping, art. We have this all integrated with our staff members. We're all really excited. There'll be this different kinds of instructions, and a lot of our staff have worked with Cub Scouts in previous years, and we have a mix of experiences from their backgrounds of like retired teachers and working with scouts of different levels to ones that have siblings and other touch points. So we're really excited to have Cub Scouts again this year. Our program goal is to have fun and enjoying the camping, the facilities we have. As you can see with Troy, with the climbing wall for the bouldering, it's a lot of fun. And we get, during resident camp, we get to use a lot of our facilities in full swing with how we're staffing. While we're offering the ability to work on several adventures, and we will give a list at the end of that of all the adventures we have completed. Our program is aiming at the fun over the advancement. So while we will keep track and make sure everybody gets those adventures, there will be certain adventures that may not necessarily be completed, just so that everybody can have fun. However, Brian, correct me if I'm wrong. I believe the Palcraft, the BB gun, and archery should be completed.
We'll, we'll be working on those, yeah.
Okay. So I mentioned some of the programs at a time. I was super excited. So with aquatics, we have our swimming and boating, shooting sports, or our ranged and target activities. We have BB gun, archery. Slingshot will be built into our evening program just because we don't have enough necessarily time to do it in a normal slot. So it will be an optional activity for those that want to work on that adventure. Then different scouting activities, we have our fishing, camping skills. We talked about the bouldering and different nature. There will be adventures to be completed for all ranks throughout the week. And our closing campfire activity will be put on by the Cubs. Our evening activities. So on day one, there will be an opening campfire run by our staff. And during the evening, we will be having a camp-wide activity each night at some capacity. I know one of them will be like astronomy glow adventure. And then our open evening programs will include swimming, boating, fishing, target and range activities, and open for that. And then we will have trading posts, which I know is very fun for a lot of scouts. There's a lot of things you can get at our trading post. And our trading post manager, Janet, is really excited for everybody. She's been talking it up of what to stock up for the Cub Scouts.
Okay.
Brian, you
When you
want
get it.
want to go for this, or I can roll
Sure.
into it, whichever.
We just put a few things in here that folks might want to keep in mind as they're planning for camp. There is a list um, There's a list in the planning guide of maybe some recommended items to bring for camping. We're looking for closed-toed shoes, slides, and sandals are really not recommended for camp. It's not a great for that environment. Closed-toed shoes would definitely have some extra socks, flashlights, shower shoes, rain gear, swimsuits, backpacks. These are all good things to for the scouts to have while they're at camp to prepare for their experience with us. So Quinn just posted a link to the Cub Scout planning guide in the chat box, so you've got that there. Age restrictions on activities, not really age restrictions. I mean, there's some things in terms of for what we're offering, there will not be age restrictions, right? There are things that the older scouts could do in other weeks that we would not be putting on for the Cub Scouts, but there are not really too many age restrictions. I'm not thinking of any off the top of my head. There are some things in terms of um, no, we're pretty well good on that. Um, Other questions that folks may have. The safeguard training link is available at my.scouting.org. So you can go to that and use set up an account if you don't have one already, and you'll be able to take the online training there. The online training for safeguarding youth takes about 90 minutes to complete. The nice thing about that, for those that are used to the youth protection training, that was an hour training every 2 years. This one's going to become an annual requirement, but the safeguarding youth is 90 minutes first. And then they're telling us that in every after that, it'll be annual, but it's only going to be about a 15-minute refresher. So it's not going to be a full hour-long course every couple of years. The question going back to this, so do the adults sleep in the same kind of tents as the scouts? Yes. We do sometimes get the question, can we bring our own tent? We want to bring our family tent or something like that. You're welcome to do that. We do have some folks that do that. That's not a problem. You can set that up in the campsite. The trading post accepts cash, but we also accept credit cards, debit cards, Apple Pay, tap kinds of stuff. So we're set up with a Square system like you would get at many storefronts, your favorite coffee shop, etc. So that's there. Coffee in the dining hall during the meals and in between. There's coffee ongoing there. Scouts do adventures with. So we as our program model that in terms of the program, the feedback we get from a lot of units is they want to be able to keep families together. They want to be able to keep the kids from their packs, their home packs together. So we do not divide up the scouts based off of their age or rank. We will take the scouts that are coming in. You will be assigned to a campsite, and then based largely off that campsite, you will be put into a den for the week, and complete and go through the round robin that Quinn discussed through that den. So we've got those 6 1-hour sessions during the day, 3 in the morning, 3 in the afternoon. And the den will travel together to do that. And the staff will look to differentiate instruction within the program based on the experience and age of the scouts. So, we don't want to have parents and kids separated out, so mom's got to worry about one kid's going this way and one kid's going that way. They're all going to go to the same program together, but we'll work to provide a slightly altered experience for different scouts based on the age appropriateness of the activity there. Yep. Again, Quinn answered that one about the use of personal tents. You can use personal tents if you wish. Yep. Class A's, typically the staff will be in Class A uniforms, the uniforms that Quinn and I are wearing right now. We will be wearing those at dinner time. We encourage the use of the Class A, but there will be people that will not be in it, and that's perfectly fine. So whether that's for the scouts or for the adults, many of the adults may not even own a Class A. That's fine. You do not need to rush out to get a Class A shirt for next week. If you have one, usually we wear it at dinner time and for the retreat ceremony, and that's it for the day. Even the staff doesn't wear the Class A during the rest of the day. We are encouraging our staff to maybe dress up a little bit, costumes tied into our racing theme. If you want to get in the spirit and maybe wear some racing themed gear, feel free. Again, you don't need to have, you do not need to bring a tent. We will provide a tent or a lean-to for your accommodations. You will need your own bedding though. So sleeping bags or sheets or whatever you choose to use, you will have either a canvas cot, like a military style cot, or in a few cases where we have lean-tos, there are bunks with a thick mattress on it. But from there, there's no bedding material on it that you would need to bring that. The Remind app does have the large blue R on it, or the blue background with the white R, I should say. That's the Remind app. I will get the campsite assignments out. We just finalized that today, and I will get that out to you. Quinn answered the question about bug nets, personal choice. We do have some for sale in the trading post if you want, but yeah. Um, CPAP answer there. There are a few sites, the inner sites, Shindaku, Algonquin, and Oneida, as well as Iroquois, have access to electricity for the purposes of CPAP machines primarily. The other sites do not. They're too far away from the electrical systems for us to be able to connect that. But we do have a couple of batteries that can be lent out for those who need to have that for CPAP usage. And those can be borrowed from the camp and charged during the day and used at night. Um, Again, with the shoes, it's uneven ground. There's a lot of roots in places, rocks in places, things like that. So in terms of Crocs, they're not the best kind of footwear for this kind of situation. Great for around the beach if they're going to go down to the beach area, and they want to have that as an extra pair of shoes for down there, or for shower shoes. Totally fine for that. Recommend sneakers or boots or something like that. That's more of a closed-toed shoe for general walking around camp. With the health form section C, Dr. must be attached and added the entire physical and sign that. If we have the doctor's signature indicating that the physical was completed within the last 12 months, and the physical that was attached, if they did not fill out the Part C page, but attached a physical, if the physical includes the everything that's needed on the Part C, we would generally be able to accept that. But I'm going to have to reserve right to see what it actually says and to let Josh make that final determination there. Um, so for the background check, again, if you're already registered in Black Pug, if you signed up to come to camp for and you're registered with your child or with your pack, you don't need to do anything else for the background check because we've already pulled your data from that file and sent it in for the background check. All we needed is your name and your date of birth, which was provided then. If you don't, so primarily like the scenario I was describing earlier, where maybe an extra parent is coming up to swap off for part of the time with another parent, then you can go ahead and use that Google form on our website and just put camp volunteer is fine. And because that form gets a lot more use for Scouts BSA. For Cub Scouts, you're only there for 72 hours. The parents tend to attend with the campers, so we don't really tend to get a lot of additional parents like we do at Scout BSA camp. That's why the Cub packs aren't listed on there then. Okay. Try to slow down in the responses, but also this video is being recorded. So I apologize if I've gone too fast on some things. We have this video is being recorded. We will be posting this to our YouTube page, and I will be sending the link out to that as soon as it's posted up there. So that will go out to everybody that's registered for camp, and you can certainly share it with anybody else that you'd like. The link for that. Also, Quinn posted earlier the link to the camp planning guide that has pretty much everything that we're talking about and more in that. So there's a document right there that covers the program, the leadership expectations that we have. All that stuff is written right down there in that camp planning guide. Wayne answered the question about the trading post. We've answered the question about electricity. Website is in the chat box there, rsrbsa.org. Just want to try to make sure I don't skip over any here. I'm not sure exactly what the question is about sunscreen or bug spray, but certainly recommend if they're going to be out in the sun, which they are, screen would be good. If there's something particular about those things, we do not have it to provide to the scouts. That's something that would need to come with the child. Okay. You got an answer to the mailing address question there. Yep. So the mailing address is 279 Davit Lake Road. We see that in the chat box there. Cub Scouts, the question about sleeping arrangements. So at Cub Scout level, yes, Cub Scouts can share a tent with a parent. That is not permitted by scouting at the Scouts BSA level, which is the older Scouts. But for the Cub Scout camp this week, yes, Cub Scouts can share a tent with a parent. So that's up to you how you want to set that up. Ultimately, we on the camp staff, we're not involved in sort of setting up the tenting situation, the sleeping arrangement situation. When you get to your campsite, um, the pack will figure out where everybody's staying within the site. We provide enough tenting, we provide enough or lean-tos to accommodate everybody, and then within the pack, families may choose to tent together separately. Scouts want to tent together. We let the packs resolve those kinds of things. As I mentioned, this is being recorded, and we will send out the link to this recording. It'll be on our YouTube page. Quinn posted the Remind app links there. Yep, the shower house is outside the dining hall, 12 individual stalls, so anybody can use them anytime they need.
Brian, can you just talk quickly about snacks? Someone asked about snacks, and
Sure.
Quinn said that there are not bear boxes at the sites. Can you just talk
Right.
about what you would like us to do? Because you will have visitors. Like if someone just comes with a whole bunch of snacks in their tent, we're gonna get all kinds of animals in. Can you just talk about the best practices if people are bringing food?
Yeah, that's a great question. Thank you, Mandy. Yeah, so there are not like bear-proof back boxes and or even raccoon chipmunk-proof boxes in camp. We do have chuck boxes in the camp in many of the campsites. They are not designed to keep animals out. Those are basically for you want to put your paper plates if you're doing patrol cooking in a scout environment and you're going to be putting paper plates and cooking gear and stuff like that in there. They are not meant to keep food secure. So uh, we recommend that people are not bringing food into the campsites because of the fact that it does attract animals. And we do have raccoons in the site. We have porcupines. We have chipmunks. We have squirrels. We're in the woods. So those things are a fact of life here. So definitely recommend that we don't do that. One thing that we see a lot with troops, I don't know how many packs are set up for this, but some of you maybe, I know we've got some large packs headed into camp. Some are bringing a trailer, and if you want to bring a trailer, that's fine. And the trailer can be dropped at the entrance to the campsite, and that can be a storage facility for those kinds of things. But generally, we would recommend that food not be kept in the campsites for those reasons. Scout and parent arriving after the formal check-in at 1 o'clock, that's fine. Yep. So as far as the check-in process, everybody comes in to basically, for the most part, most people are going to arrive at that 1 o'clock hour, somewhere around 1 o'clock, and they're going to get checked in through their 1 to 1:30, 2 o'clock, whatever. They're going to check in with us at that pavilion. After that point, anybody that comes into camp at any point through the end of the camp checks in at the office. So once we've got everybody entered in, we'll pack up, we'll leave the Cub Scout Pavilion, and we'll head down to the office and move on to other things. But through the rest of the camp experience, anybody that's coming into or leaving camp needs to check in, sign in, and sign out at the camp office, which is just below the parking lot. Okay, again, address for mail we covered. Let's see, and also the last page of the planning guide has that kind of stuff on it, mailing address, phone numbers, things of that sort. So yes, the trading post is our camp store. Sometimes we fall guilty of using scouting lingo and apologize for that. Our trading post is the camp store. So just to give you a range, Quinn talked a little bit about the prices that because that in response to a question, but there is snacks available in the trading post, candies, snacks, other things like that. We have beverages there. The slushy machine is always very popular. We have that. We have t-shirts, hats, sweatshirts, memorabilia, stickers, um, mugs, the kinds of gift shop type stuff that you might find with camp logo on that. Quinn answered a question about sleeping arrangements, bed sheets, and blanket versus sleeping bag. Totally personal preference, how you're comfortable, and what the forecast for the week is. One thing to keep in mind as we, sort of look ahead at the weather, because we're at a little bit of an elevation, we're not that far from Albany, but we are at a little bit of an elevation. And so because of that, we usually look at a general rule is you take whatever the forecasted temperature is for the city of Albany and usually subtract about 5 degrees thereabouts. And that gives you a better idea of what the forecast usually is for camp. So it is a little cooler here than it is down in like Albany and Troy. The health form, which is the health form A through C, that's the scouting health form. It's available on our website. It's available on the Scouting America website. It's a 4-page form. Parts A, B1, B2, and C. C is the doctor's physical. The first 3 pages a parent can fill out, right? The first 3 pages are things like health history, contact information, things of that sort. First 3 pages a parent can fill out. The last page, part C, must be signed by a doctor or another medical practitioner as indicated on the form. We need that for all scouts, and for any adult who wants to partake in aquatic activities needs that part C, the last page of that as well. And every person has their own health form, right? So it's each person has their own form. A form is only for one person. And it's the same form for everybody, whether it's kids or adults. Every campsite has water in it, and it's potable water. Everybody can partake of the water in the campsites. Again, we're really looking for the scouting physical. We definitely need the parts A, B, the first 3 pages there. The school physicals may or may not cover what's in there, but if it covers what's requested on part C, we can use that in lieu of the part C, but we still need the parts A, B, and B, A, B1, and B2, the first 3 pages to that. So good question about the construction. So there is a project that is going on Route 351. So this is only going to affect units or individuals that are coming from the north that would normally travel through Brunswick and come through 351. There is and there's an email link that's scheduled to go out to you guys on Saturday to give you more information about this. So you have this before your arrival. But so it's Route 351, as Quinn has posted it here. You can see where it is if you're coming through Cropseyville and headed down south to Poston Kill. There is a detour that you would have to go through if you go through that area. If you're coming from like Albany and Point South, this is irrelevant to you. You're not going to be crossing this. This is going to be those folks who are joining us from north, coming through Troy, Brunswick area to get to camp. How are we doing? I think we hit everything that's in the chat box. So let's see if we got something. We do check and clean the latrines, the shower house on a daily basis. The staff does clean those on a daily basis. They do check those on a daily basis. One thing I will say is that the latrine across from the Grizz Pavilion and the dining hall gets heavy usage throughout the day. And so what does that mean? It simply means that sometimes the toilet paper runs out faster than anybody realizes that it's running out. If you could just, if that happens, if you could just let any staff member know, give us a heads up, or go directly across to the kitchen and they've got more toilet paper. But we do keep track of that. But sometimes if people have been going and using it a lot, that can sometimes run out. We keep 3 or 4 rolls in there at a time, but that would be the one challenge with that one. The GPS address is our camp address. Yep. When you get to camp, your Davit Lake Road drives right into camp. So you're going to go from a paved road to a dirt road at the main gate, and you just keep going. About a little less than a mile forward is the parking lot, and that's where we will be greeting you and checking you in. Great question, Andrew. Love that question about is there a way to recognize great staff and volunteers during the week? There is a box down in the trading post where you can little post-it notes. You can write little attaboys and attagirls on there and throw that in there, and we uh, we read those out in front of the whole staff. So that's a nice way to commend the staff for a job well done, and or an email to me is another great way to recognize the staff or to Quinn. Um, there is a form. The question is, can the Cub Scout be signed off by a lifeguard or swim instructor for passing the swim test prior to camp and bring that in as proof? There is a form for that for scouting. So if the person is, excuse me, a certified lifeguard and they use that scouting form, we can accept that. I will say the one thing I will just add on that, because when you're talking about pool versus lake there, if the issue is that somebody is not going to be as strong of a swimmer in a lake environment because they're uncomfortable with the lake environment, then testing them in a pool to give them access to more parts of the lake doesn't inspire a lot of confidence. Like that if the issue is a lack of confidence in the lake water versus pool water, it probably should be the experience that's going to replicate what they're doing. If they feel comfortable as a swimmer in a pool, but then we put them into a lake and they lose that confidence, that may not be the best approach. So from a technical standpoint, to the answer to that question, yes, but it may be a good idea to test them in the lake if there's concerns about that. Yep, when you use the Remind app, the Remind app is something you can download through the App Store and enter that code that we discussed earlier. And the at one RSR BSA dot sorry, one RSR Cub RSR BSA. Yes, thank you, Quinn. Trying to remember them off the top of my head. That's the text right there, Benny. For the swim test, yes, they jump in. It's the BSA swim test. Okay, so this is a good thing. This is a good point to go over. Some asked a question about the jumping in. Scouting America has a standardized swim test for all participants in the scouting program. This is not a Rotary swim test. This is not a Twin Rivers Council swim test. It is the Scouting America swim test, and everybody that wants to take it takes it. Scouts are not required to take the swim test, but there are things that they can't do without passing the swim test. So the swim test is optional, but if they want to swim, for example, in the swimmers area, they would need to pass the swimmer's test. Now, our waterfront is divided into three sections. There's a swimmer's area, which is deeper water. There's the beginner's area, and there's the non-swimmers area. Non-swimmers area is great for going out there, splashing around in the water with your friends. It's up to, a child's waist, and they can get cooled off and have fun with their friends. That sounds like fun. Okay. The beginner's area is a little bit deeper, but still shallow enough for somebody who's a developing swimmer, who's not as strong in their skills. The swimmers area is for those who have passed the swimmer's test. There are benchmarks that scouting puts forth for both a beginner and a scout and a swimmer. And if the scouts and adults choose to take the swim test, they perform that test. And if they complete it, their buddy tag gets marked as either a swimmer or a beginner. So the swimmer test is 4 lengths of the docks, 25 feet each direction, right? Going down. And the first 3 lengths down. So let me actually back up. You have to jump in, not dive, jump into the water, 25 feet, 25 feet back, 25 feet again, 25 back. The first 3 lengths are a forward stroke, like any forward stroke of their choice. That can be a forward crawl, a breaststroke, any of that. The last length is the elementary backstroke. Going back that last leg, and then they have to hold there for just a little bit, and then they've passed the swimmer's test. The standard is less for the beginner, and then non-swimmer is basically I just want to go in and get my feet wet and go play in the little shallow water there. So that will be an option for folks. Yep, as Quinn pointed out, the weather can influence our aquatic availability, including the swim tests. If we have thunder, that shuts down the waterfront for 30 minutes, regardless of where the thunder is. If we can hear it, waterfront gets shut down for 30 minutes. Like yesterday when we did check in for camp, we had to shut down swim tests for a couple of hours, but then we were finally able to get everybody through once the storms moved on. Right, 25 yards. I misspoke. Not 25 feet. Um, Keeping the phones charged, right? There's charging stations in the dining hall. There will be other opportunities to um, there will be other opportunities to take the swim test depending upon when folks come in. Are there other questions that folks have?
Brian, can you name the strokes again that they need for the
Sure.
swim test?
Yeah, so the first three legs, the 25 yards each length, and I apologize, I did say feet before I meant yards. Each of the first three lengths, it is a forward stroke. It has to be, they can't doggy paddle. It's got to be a kind of a clear, strong forward stroke. So a crawl, a breaststroke. I feel like I'm missing a butterfly. If they want to do that, they're doing that. I am not an expert in the swimming area. I apologize, but basically a strong forward stroke for the first three lengths, out, back, out, and then coming back to 25 yards is the elementary backstroke.
Okay. So 75 yards total of that front of a
75
forward
yards,
stroke. The last
75
20.
yards
So it's basically
forward.
100 yards total.
Correct. 25 yards back. The beginner test is shorter. I apologize. I don't have that off the top of my head. I believe it's about half the length of that. Yep, there we go. Side stroke, breaststroke, forward crawl, any of those strong
Thank you.
forward strokes, as we were saying. The beginner test is shorter. It's only, I want to say, two lengths. I don't have that off the top of my head. But yes, they can absolutely bring goggles. Question about whether scouts can use goggles. They can absolutely do that.
And this is like adults will take it too, like the adults attending and the scouts, everyone.
They will not be required to, but yes, the option will be provided for them to
Okay.
take that as well. If you're an adult that has no interest in going in the water, that's perfectly fine. And you do not need to take the swimmer's test. So the swimmer's test is an option for the Cub Scout. Quinn just posted the exact text of the scouting swimmer's test into as well as the beginner's test. So you've got the full thing without me having to screw it up. So
Thank you so
Quinn.
much.
Thank you, Quinn. So it will be an option. Nobody is required to take the swim test. But as I said before, the swimmer's test and how you perform on the swimmer's test is your ticket to certain things that you can do on the waterfront. So a swimmer has free reign on the waterfront. They're able to go to the swimmers area, the deeper area. They have full access to the boats, things of that sort. If you're not a swimmer, if you're only a beginner, you do not have access to the swimming area, the deeper swimmers area. I'm going to tell you, a lot of the kids are not going to pass the swimmer's test. It's a challenging test for Cub Scouts. Doesn't mean that none of them will, but it is a challenging test for Cub Scouts. And if I believe the requirement for the Cub Scout rank is that they attempt the swimmer's test. They do not have to pass the swimmer's test. That is a Scouts BSA standard. If you are an older Scout going for first class, you're going to have to pass the swimmer's test. But for a Cub Scout, they just need to try it if they wish to do so for the rank advancement. For our purposes, if a scout doesn't want to go in the water at all, that's fine. That's perfectly fine. But there are going to be activities at the waterfront where if they're a non-swimmer, so let me mention one other thing for folks that might not have experience. When you turn in your medical form, you get a circular disc that I don't have one in my pocket here, but a circular disc that is a buddy tag that has your name on it, and it gets colored based on your classification. If you're a swimmer, it's you get red and blue uh, colored on their tag, and that gives you that's like the golden ticket to the whole area, right? You can do whatever you want at the waterfront. If you're a beginner, then it's red, partially red, and that gives you access to the beginners area. Even if your buddy tag is fully white, as just as white as it was when we gave it to you, you can still go into that non-swimmers area, which is, as I said, it's going to be about not even waist deep for a Cub Scout. It's going to be those first few feet of the area, but they can go in with their friends, they can get wet, they can splash each other, they can do that kind of stuff. That's where most of the Cub Scouts are going to be having their fun, is in the non-swimmers area and the beginners area. So I don't want anybody to fear that, like, if their scout doesn't complete the swimmer's test, that they're going to be missing out on everything. There are things that they won't be able to do. There are areas that they won't be able to go into, and they can't take out a boat on their own. But they are going to still be able to get into the water and play with their friends in either the non-swimmer or beginners area. Hope that clarifies some things, because I know there's been some questions about that we've gotten in the past from Cub Scout families about that stuff. The So for the last day, so that's going to be Wednesday for session 1 or Saturday for session 2, we will have breakfast at 8 o'clock. And then we will do basically a kind of a closing ceremony, kind of closing activity, and then the camp will be dismissed. So figure somewhere around the 9:30 to 10 o'clock range is when folks will be dismissed on either Wednesday morning or Saturday morning. Yep. For boating, you need to pass the swimmer's test. There are some circumstances, there are some boats where a swimmer can take out an adult swimmer can take out a non-swimmer to in like a rowboat for that. But otherwise, if you're taking out a boat on your own, you need to be a swimmer. Yeah. Quinn even got us a picture of the buddy tags. There you go. So that's a picture in the chat box there of the buddy tags, of what they look like, all white, red, or red and blue, based on how they're going. I apologize, I don't know the water temperature off the top of my head. Yep, mentioned that about if the adult who passes the swim test can take a Cub Scout out in a boat or a rowboat or a canoe if they are a non-swimmer. The form about taking the swim test in advance with a lifeguard at the pool, Quinn, can you find that and pull that up? It's a scouting form.
Brian,
Yep,
I'm
full
sorry,
session.
which one?
That would be it's the scouting's got a swim test classification form, but it's a scouting form. It's not the DOH stuff. It's something that a lifeguard can sign off on. You can find that. Yep, session 1 and session 2 are both the same in terms of check-in. Question about will folks be having fires at their sites? That's entirely up to you. What goes on in the campsite is the pack and so some of you are going to be with large packs that may be just that one pack in a campsite. Some will be put together in pack for the week or dens for the week that'll be made up of scouts from multiple packs, families from multiple packs. So if you all wish to have a campfire, you all have campfire rings in your campsites. You are absolutely welcome to have campfires in the campsites. Yep. Folks can leave when you need to leave. If folks need to leave early, question, can we leave early prior to breakfast or the evening before? Yep, absolutely. You just need to let us know. And as I said, there's that camper release form that we use. So basically, this is the rule of thumb. If you are leaving before the closing ceremony, we just need a copy of that camper release form. And that is either available on our website or you can get it from us in the office. And we will, and just signs, basically you're signing the scout out of camp. Thank you. Looks like Andrew found it and Quinn found it there. Great. There is not an EV charger in the parking lot, and we do not permit charging electrical vehicles off of our electrical system. question about if we could find out if others are from the pack are attending. Andy, if you want to shoot me an email or something, I can let you know that.
Thanks.
Yep. Plus, yeah, that'd be one way to do it. The camp does, we sort of provide the wood. We don't provide split wood, but there's downed wood in the campsites and around the campsites and that sort of thing. So you're welcome to cut up whatever's on the ground to use to make fires. Other questions? I'm not, let me, Austin, I'm not entirely sure I understand the question. Let me try to answer that. Like, if somebody who's classified as a swimmer can take out any boats that are available. So that's what BSA recognizes a swimmer is you've got the keys to the kingdom when it comes to the waterfront. So a swimmer would normally be able to take out a canoe or a kayak or a rowboat or a stand-up paddleboard and things like that. Somebody who's classified as a non-swimmer or beginner cannot do those things, not by themselves. But if a adult swimmer wants to take a non-swimmer or a beginner out in a rowboat or a canoe, they can do that. We have life jackets, we have PFDs, we have all the program equipment that the scouts will need for their activities. However, anything that you might want to do in your campsite, if you question about bringing s'mores kits or something, you know, you could do that. But as Quinn pointed out, keep in mind, we're trying to keep snacks out of the site. So if you have someplace adequate to store that, keep it in your vehicle maybe until the night that you're ready to do that. You're welcome to do that, but we do want to keep the snacks out of the campsites. You can eat them in the campsites, but then not storing stuff in the campsites, to be more clear.
Brian, can you talk really quick about garbage? I know there's like at Wapomani, they said they're going to come get the garbage like every night or something.
Yep.
Do we bring
Yep,
it
we do
to
the
a
same.
dumpster? Is it getting collected?
Nope. The only thing is there's two campsites, Sindaku and Algonquin, that are right next to the dining hall. If you're in one of those two campsites, we ask you to just go put the trash in the trailer, which is located right next to it's very close to those two campsites. So we ask you to just put it in the garbage trailer there next to the dining hall, and we'll take it up. For
Okay,
all the other sites, we come around to the sites and pick up the trash at night.
perfect. Thanks.
Yep. So as Quinn pointed out, so during the day, you've got 6 blocks of program time, 3 in the morning, 3 in the afternoon. One of those each day will be an aquatics activity, which may involve swimming, it may involve boating, it may vary a little bit, first day versus second day. It depends on what the staff is putting on that day. And then we have our open program that Quinn referenced in the evening, which is, so let me illustrate this point. So during the day, 9 to 12, 2 to 5, campers will travel as a group, as a den. So your den, which is generally based on your campsite, but there's a little generally based on the campsite that you're in, you will travel together. You'll go point A, point B, point C, go to lunch, point D, point E, point F. Right? Those will be the programs during the day. But in the evening, we offer open programs, which means there will be multiple areas open and you choose to go where you want to go. So if you want to go to the waterfront and do swimming or boating, you can do that. If you want to go bouldering and that's open, you can do that. Fishing is available. I don't know that we talked about fishing, but fishing is a fun program for the Cub Scouts. A lot of the Cub Scouts like that. The Cub Scouts are welcome to bring their own fishing materials, fishing gear if they have it. We do have some fishing poles as well that we can let out, but certainly if they have their own, that's probably a good idea because Cub Scouts tend to get a lot of Cub Scouts that want to do fishing. We may not have enough poles for everybody at any one particular time. So if you've got your own gear, that would be great. We do provide bait. We provide worms for that activity as well. So that's another open program example. So if you wanted to, even if you wanted to get up in the morning and take the cubs down to the dock to go to the fishing dock to go fishing, you can do that. You can do it in an evening program. So that's what we mean by open program versus the scheduled program during the day. Some of the program is scheduled for you, some of it is open and flexible for your choice. There's a question about lean-tos or tents. The way the campsites are assigned and set up, it's almost entirely tents. But there are some campsites that have lean-tos in them that you may choose to use. But we've pretty much got it so that, particularly factoring the fact that some people are going to bring their own tents because we know they do, nobody should be forced to be in a lean-to. It's going to be tents, and unless they want to. Some people prefer the lean-to. You could put 4 people in a lean-to. You can only put 2 people in a tent. So one of our tents. So some families prefer the lean-to because they're like, well, we've got 2 parents, 2 kids, or some other combination of that, and they're like, we'd like to put everybody in the lean-to. If you're in Shindaku, Taconic, or Spruce, you'll have that option. Quinn answered a great question about firewood. Um, the Yep, the packs will be assigned tables in the dining hall. Um, the available programs we just ran through a couple slides ago. I can kind of push back to some of the different. So the slide that I've got on the screen here, those are the different programs that we're doing. We don't do merit badges at the Cub Scout level. That's for Scouts BSA. But these are the different activities that will make up the programs, and Quinn just put it into the chat box as well.
Brian, we get a list at the end, right, of everything they completed for
Mhm.
advancements.
Yep. So
Okay.
as Quinn was talking about earlier, yeah, good question. So what we're trying to do, so when you're a scout going to like Scouts BSA camp and you're working on merit badges, you get this list of things that you have to complete if you want to get that little disc of thread, right, to put on your uniform. That's not the Cub program, right? The Cub program is supposed to be fun and trying out new things and things like that. So what we've designed is a fun program where the kids will complete some of the requirements on their adventures without knowing that they're completing requirements. The goal is that they're not thinking at all about advancement requirements. They're just having a great time. They're doing a lot of fun activities. But yes, that will be simultaneously checking off some of the requirements for their adventures. And we will record that. And at the end of the week, we will share that information out to the parents and leaders so that you can go in and sign the books afterwards for any adventures that they may have completed. But we're not designing a program where it's like, okay, kids, so right now we're going to do requirement number 1 on this adventure, and then we're going to move on to 2 or move on to 3 or anything like that. It's having fun and going from there. Question about bring or burn Thermacell or other burning mosquito repellents in the tents. That's a big no-no. We cannot have any open flames, nothing burning in the tents. The other thing along those same lines is if you're going to put on aerosol spray, bug sprays, or anything like that, please do not put that on inside the tent. Step outside the tent and put the bug spray on. Aerosol weakens the waterproofing on the canvas tents. So the fastest way to turn a tent into a sieve is to spray bug sprays and other aerosols onto the to the roof of the tent. So no open flames in tent, nothing burning inside the tents, and bug sprays need to be put on outside of the tent if they're aerosolized. Let's see. Question: if adult does not have a physical, are they prohibited from swimming? Yes. In order to get a buddy tag, you have to have that Part C signed by the doctor, which is the physical. So all scouts need to have that. All scouts need to have the physical. Scouting has a rule that says if the activity is less than 72 hours, then adults may not be required to have that Part C. So you can attend camp as an adult without the Part C, You do need to still provide us with A, B1, and B2. So the first 3 pages of the Scout Health Form, which again is all stuff that you can fill in. It's health history, it's contact information, it's stuff like that that you can fill in yourself. It does not require a doctor. But without that last page, Part C, you cannot get a buddy tag. If you cannot get a buddy tag, you cannot go onto the waterfront. So that's the ticket for admission into the waterfront. There are no exceptions to that. So that's an important one. The pavilion is 20 foot by 19 feet. They generally have about 3 or 4 picnic tables underneath them. Cell service varies. There was a question up ahead. Yeah, there was a question up ahead that I'm not sure if I actually answered about Wi-Fi. There is Wi-Fi available in several parts of camp, the camp office, the dining hall, the Grizz Pavilion down at Seneca Lodge. So kind of the main central areas of camp, there is Wi-Fi. So cell coverage varies, depends upon your provider, it depends on where you are in the camp. So it can be spotty, but you can also use Wi-Fi calling if you hit one of the Wi-Fi signals to access that. Other questions? There is a Wi-Fi for there is a password for the Wi-Fi network, yes. And I'll give it to anybody who wants it when you get here. So a question about a canopy for sleeping, that's tent. I assume you're referring to this picture. That's a tent. So that tent is 9 feet wide across the front, 7 feet deep, about 6 feet at the peak, sits on a wood platform with 2 cots inside. That's the standard issue of what everybody will be sleeping at. There are a few lean-tos in some of the sites, but basically the tent that you see on the screen here is what people will be sleeping in. We will provide tents for everybody. Okay, everybody will have sleeping accommodations. Some people choose to bring their own tent. If you wish to do that, you can, but you absolutely do not need to. We will be providing tenting for everyone with either the cots like you see them here, or if you choose to be in a lean-to, they are bunks. There's 2x2 bunks. I'm not really an expert on the New York State fishing license law, but it's not generally an issue. I guess I would answer that by saying you will not have an NCON officer standing over your shoulder as you're fishing with your kid, unless it's another adult leader. I see a note to remind people to bring chairs. You can bring chairs if you wish to. You can see the chair in the picture there. There are picnic tables in the campsite. There's picnic tables in the program areas where you're going to, but yes, many people like to bring camp chairs. When we have our campfire in the campfire area, there are benches there, but sometimes for comfort purposes, people like to bring a camp chair like you see in the picture. That's totally optional. There are not screens on the tents. The bugginess varies, depends a little bit on the weather. It has been a little bit buggier in terms of deer flies the last week or two than we typically get. Mosquitoes haven't been bad. We don't generally get a lot of mosquitoes, but there have been some deer flies the last couple of weeks. We don't have screens on the tents. The picture that you see right there, the front flaps are open. If you look through the tent, you'll see the back flaps are closed. That's what the front of the tent looks like when the front flaps are closed. So that bugs can get in there. So if you would like to have bug screens or anything like that, that would be something to bring up in advance, or we do sell some in the trading post.
Brian, for the Remind app, I just went to log in and it says it's now part of Parent Square. Do you
Mhm.
know, I am like a member of Parent Square for our school. Do you know how to get linked through Parent Square?
I don't. I just know that if
Okay.
you go into the app, yeah, they did get bought by Parent Square at some point in the last year. If you just go into the Remind app, um, I don't know if people could see this. You go into the Remind app and you hit the three bars up here in the upper corner there, the hamburger menu. That'll open up the menu that says Add Class, and you just type in the code where it says Add Class.
Okay, so I guess just still do it through Remind. Don't do
Yes,
it through Parent
correct.
Square.
Yeah,
Okay,
I'm not sure about the Parent Square interface. I know that they
gotta find it
were
through there.
bought by Parent Square last year, but I'm not sure how that interface works.
Okay.
My school district uses Parent Square, but we do not use Remind within the district. So this is just one we use here for camp. Other questions? No problem. Thank you for joining us. All right, so I think what we'll do here, since the questions seem to have slowed down, is I'm going to turn off the recording, and Quinn and I will stick around for a little bit longer in case anybody has any additional questions that they want to ask. Maybe there's something you want to ask without the video going on, so that's perfectly fine. So I'm going to stop the recording now.